Lesson 8, the history of dreams. Why should we believe that our history in time and space is shown by the content of our dreams? It is shown that the content of this life is organized somehow in dreams. Page 183 of Eckankar Dream 2 Discourses by Harold Klemp doesn't mention that fact, but it speaks of people having a record of life on the causal plane that we can access in dreams or soul travel. Pavor nocturnus, or sleep terrors for children, is said to be a child's secular opposition to past life memories that they are having in sleep. I would agree that there are spiritual sides to things like sleep paralysis, sleep apnea, and epilepsy are a weight upon a person. Because it actually seems that most of the time these have spiritual elements. But this may not be the most logical interpretation. It may be true that effects of demonic attacks, where we have some level of awareness, and even mere psychic events, may have lasting effects on us when we neither take on a spiritual defense nor deal with the tensions causing them. I would hardly think we need a Mahanta or way shower to come relieve our tensions when we have to do our own work anyways. Tracing our dream past is usually not the same as tracing our actual past. Must we have spent many lives on the astral, causal, mental, and etheric planes? Some Hindu texts place humanity as existing for millions of years. Life on Earth has been here for billions of years. Christianity used to only claim the world was brought about around 404 BCE. 4004 BCE, or some other date less than several thousand years ago. The Yazidi calendar goes back further than that, as we have seen. Science. Dates. Science updates its cosmological claims as time goes on. Most prefer that over attempts to mythologize the scientific claims of a particular period. There was a beginning to humanity and life on Earth that is more important of a fact to focus on. I would venture to say that a revealed mythology cannot be so outdated. We were also there, is the claim. To try to refute people's condemnation or devaluing of what went on in a different place or time. But we were also there. Well, that wouldn't lift the idea that there were problems with it. That would just make it our problem. So yeah, time periods in Earth matter little in the long run. It is what a person brings with them from their time in the lower worlds that what matters. I don't know where this claim of humans showing up 12 to 14 million years ago comes from, but it has only been moved back between 6 and 7 million years ago by fossils examined in the past 15 years. And there was a find in the Hindu Kush Himalayan that puts it about 11 million years old. So neither does science actually claim we are more evolved now. I mean, since I wrote this paper, there was another find. We are a weaker species with a smaller brain than in Neanderthal times, but our softer features don't make us smarter or all that more precise. Eckankar teaches that colonies from Ceres and other places in space. I presume Sirius, kind of like the Kolob myth, the dog myth and LDS thing. But in other places in space, placed the first humans here. Reincarnation in physical body was said to be rarer back then. Were the conditions really any harsher than the extremes of environment and society for anatomically modern human? Are our dreams influenced by the fears of past lives on Earth? Why would a life on an astral plane last hundreds of years? Maybe the idea of a person spending several lives over thousands of years there is really a way of saying they went to hell realms to pay for the deeds. Because in most views of reincarnation is really like going to hell. Eckankar sees itself on the side of the main opponent of religion. Science itself doesn't actually stand in the way of a relationship with God and the creation. Whatever you call an adversary to connecting with one's truth source community and the source of all and its constituents are devils by definition. Is Eckankar a form of Satanism? Memories of early experiences do show up in dreams, but few would conclude that basic light and sound dreams of 8 million years ago were the product of undeveloped intelligence in primates living in caves in Southeast Asia and Africa that brought fear instead of comfort. Fear instead of comfort. Before the Mediterranean Sea turned into a salt flat. A soul may occupy a body, but it would be harsh to say that the body indicates the evolving soul. Australopithecus was not an ancestor of any type of human. Harold Klemp is wrong in trying to mythologize outdated hypotheses masquerading as theories. He is wrong again in thinking Homo habilis came next instead of previous to the aforementioned geological events. When even non-human animals hunt, why should we believe that an Eniod corporate kinesis master came to teach those humans to hunt and build shelter when other primates had some of the very same abilities without a sort of prophet figure teaching it to them? It may have been true that early man worshipped these who came into dreams. Homo erectus did come next as the plains of Africa replaced forests. It is more likely that the tools of Homo habilis continued to be refined by Homo erectus than him needed to remember them from dreams. There were probably always people who were better than others at remembering dreams and visions. Some of them probably did take a dream master to worship, but not all spiritually gifted people would have treated the figures in unusual experiences as gods and goddesses. It does seem true that under Homo erectus is when the domain of humans began to spread. Our dream images grow as we encounter more, but it seems silly to assume that early humans would have been so sheltered that they could make nothing clear aside from volcanoes, earthquakes, and wind. Elephants can be a symbol of more than health. Deer can mean something other than good luck. Horses can mean something aside from travel. Cattle might mean something other than food. Homo neanderthalensis may have been the closest type of human to anatomically modern human, but he was bigger, stronger, and had a bigger brain. He wasn't the first being to think out its problems, and not the first human to wear clothes. I would also strongly object that God gave Homo sapiens a body to subdue the world instead of to act in accord with its balance. You know, Christianity talks about taking off the natural man. Islam says that we were put in the right standing from the beginning and that we should remain on the natural path and all that. But not that we can't use technology or anything, but nor will I claim that the smaller skulls of Cro-Magnons must have been too focused on outer life. Negroids have a significant have significantly smaller brains than Caucasoids or Mongoloids. That doesn't make them any less spiritual or undeveloped in any other way. It turns out that for the most part, that is it's heat-producing mechanisms. And if you look at the concentration of certain other things, or the total number of certain other things, the brain size is not really the indication, although the smaller brain would have a higher concentration of that. We're talking about adults. Cro-Magnons were a people that seemed to develop what we call art. Dream symbols were probably just as common in all types of humans, not just civilized man. The mixing human and animal forms probably came long after people commonly knew that divinity could be known through both humans and non-human animals. Night Terrors on page 190 of Eckankar Dream 2 Discourses by Harold Klemp is as the memories of our savage deaths as early mankind. It might be true that inner light was a comfort to people, in the same way some feel safe in a fire's light. Our dream sounds really theophanies. Do inquisitive minds reject false god, masters? Or do they get that way because of such gurus possessing their disciples? Some people say that degradation of society is proof of people taking many past lives to develop a sense of not needing spiritual practice or even philosophy. Can't people develop these ideas and feelings in one life? People want heaven on earth. Don't groups like Eckankar exist to make people feel like they have willful access to the heavens without having to earn it through orthodoxy and orthopraxy? People replace religion with belief in scientific claims and accepting whatever joyous technology seems to offer. Magic is defined as the art and science of religion. One can fully engage the material world with facts towards assent for God. Or as Harold Klemp writes in his implication that there can't be mutually, or they can't be mutually work together in the light and sound of dreams. Skills of survival have improved as humanity has progressed, but that is not a complete picture. As time progresses, humanity finds more ways to hurt and kill itself too. There's no evidence that anything but poison, drugs, and not taking care of ourselves physically has impeded our ability to dream. Well, certain spiritual influences, you can impede the demonic side, you can impede the godly side through certain beliefs and actions. So, but to dream at all, not really. Completely secular people dream. Even people who believe that merely having a dream is blasphemy might recall a dream. Shamans and other priestly figures became more the source of spiritual guidance and personal experiences in the Bronze Age. But I would remind you that it at least goes back to those Yazidi-like groups of Turkey to Syria, starting in the beginning of the age of Leo. That take on the Kurdish culture, as people would call it, goes back about 30,000 years. So it goes back even further than that. It goes back more than a procession of the equinoxes through all the things. Sages, right? Probably back from an age of Aquarius to a further age of Capricorn, or even Sagittarius, those things, 2 of them ago, those things that earlier man encountered had probably always been dream symbols. Humanity always depended on their environment to survive, and agriculture and better hunting implements would mean they were less dependent on those cycles of nature, instead of more like Harold Klemp teaches. Samaria and other parts of Mesopotamia probably existed 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. So how can the people of after that go back in time to reincarnate into that culture? Writing may have helped people keep records, but it was not a complete contribution either. Now, if we look at the Bible, some of the chronology gets mixed up too. And, Genesis to Revelation, it, is given that feel. Although you could say tonic has, because if it's different order, is probably closer to the chronology of the rest of it. But, was the tax to so-called gods really a third, and the priests another third? He does admit that the gift of the wheel was not so much in that it brought war chariots. Did Egyptians develop hieroglyphics out of petroglyphs thousands of years prior? Or did they need an Eckmaster like Gopal Das to teach them that in irrigation through the Nile? How would this similarity with Eckankar prove Egyptian mythology was, with little or no experience of a spiritual nature? Page 192, the Eckankar Discourses directly makes the claim that Thoth is the same as the lords of karma, which is called Yama in other Eckankar works. How can people continue control over people's fates after death if their conceptions of the afterlife are unfounded? Even this page shows how Harold Klemp confuses Osiris as the god of the dead that delivers to Thoth. Can a soul really gain spiritual freedom as a loser in life? Now, Harold Klemp doesn't, has some confusion about the Book of the Dead and that sort of stuff, mythology. It's hard to state some of these things in one sentence. In every age, humanity falls away from the message that God's prophets came with and generally lost or corrupted parts of them. That includes concepts like the false gods and goddesses of the Hittites, really both existing and having the power people attributed to them. Martin Luther was more likely to be right that these evil fallen angels had no physical powers over us and could only tempt and confuse us into doing ourselves harm. Is the claim of past lives as a source of our interests and hardships to pay for past hardships true to you? Every time there's a connection to the idea of a cycle of reincarnation, my inner sense of knowing never includes me as a part of such a process. Can anyone incarnate quicker merely out of their own desire? Islam teaches that every human affirmed pure monotheism and swore that they could do a mostly good job as a soul in a human body. Is there any solid reason to think that our desires chose the circumstances of our birth? Harold Klemp doesn't understand what hedonism is. The Epicurean philosophy, a specific form of hedonism, is a combination of both reducing risks and maximizing pleasure. And hedonism is the consequences in general that's being looked at. The outer consequences. The physical, I guess, not just outer and inner, but is it drifting astray to seek guidance from others about the sights and sounds of dreams? Consulting guides at oracles may not be any more misguided than praying to a master in a human body and reading his discourses as if you couldn't guide yourself just as well. I would tell you that spiritual liberation and spiritual freedom go hand in hand with an authentic life. The discourse seems to close with a list of Assyrians, Romans, Chinese, Hindus, Mexicans, Japanese, Singaporean, Australian, Canadian, American, South American, European, Asian, African, and across Earth. If you're going to exclude the islands and whatnot. But anyways, why can't we see dreams, such places and people as something other than past life memories? Page 194 of the Eckankar 2 Discourses claims that only Eckists or Eckankar practitioners can put the pieces of their dreams together in a nirvana, which is, of course, not the same thing as the band. Huge